Police deviance. Police deviance is a much broader term than corruption. It includes all activities which are inconsistent with norms, values, or ethics. This is from a societal standpoint or even from the police standpoint. A theorem in criminology is that it is always fruitful to study when people not only break society's norms, but the norms of their own social group also. So, hindi lang tayo magbabase na pag-aralan ang pag-break ng isang tao, ng fruit of a group of people sa normal na norms ng ating sociedad o society, but also sa norms ng kanilang grupo. In this case, the police. The following definition may be helpful. Pag sabihin natin deviance, these are behavior inconsistent with norms or values or ethics. Corruption naman, forbidden acts involving misuse of official or of office rather for gain, and misconduct and wrongdoing violations of the departmental procedure. Corruption is criminal conduct that can involve underusing one's authority or overusing one's authority or profiteering via one's authority. The key element is misuse of official authority. The gain can be personal or for the common good. Corruption is bad because it undermines integrity, a state of policing being whole or undivided. Police misconduct is impropriety of office, not misuse of authority. It's wrongdoing, the appearance of wrongdoing or puzzling behavior that violates standards usually set down in departmental policies and procedures for good reasons that the employee may or may not be cognizant of misconduct is bad because it leaves the public free to speculate and draw sweeping generalization about the profession of policing as a whole. Kaya very important yung training natin sa police ethics and police ethical standards, because pag ang ating mga kapulisan ay nakalimutan ang proper police procedure, proper police ethics and ethical standards rather, then we are leaving people, the public, to speculate freely. Tapos mag-generalize, especially nowadays, we have the power of the social media, mag-generalize na lahat ng mga kapulisan natin ay corrupt. Lahat ng mga kapulisan natin ay masama. So, ano ba yung iba't ibang uri ng police deviance? So, we have the following. You already have research on this. Police gratuity, perjury, brutality, profanity, sex on duty or duty-related, sleeping on duty, drinking and abusing drugs on or off duty, and the misuse of confidential information. Unahan natin ang police gratuity. A gratuity is a receipt of free meals, services, or discounts. Non-federal police usually do not regard this as forms of corruption. May mga police na hindi nila tinitingnan na ito ay isang uri ng police corruption. According to them, these are considered fringe benefits of the job. Nevertheless, they violate the code of ethics. Bakit? Because they involve financial reward or gain, and they are corruption because the officer has been placed in a compromising position when favors, in police jargon, we call that a fix, can be reasonably expected in the future. When there is an implied favor, a wink or a nod or a nude, it's called mooching. When the officer is quite blatant about demanding free services, talagang nagdedemand ng serbisyo ang pulis, no? Pupunta sa isang, for example, sa isang convenience store, tapos nagdedemand ng free soft drinks na that's chiseling. So, ang police gratuity, guys, is not only a form of corruption, but also a violation of code of ethics. Gratuities often lead to things like kickbacks or bribery, for referring business to towing companies, ambulances, or garage. Further up the scale comes pilfering or stealing any company supplies for personal use. Ang pinakamahirap, ang pinaka-extreme talaga dito, yung opportunistic thief-like place or takes place. Ito yung pag ang pulis natin will scheme items of value that won't be missed from crime scenes, property rooms, warehouses, or any place they have access to. Thief of items from stores while on patrol is something or sometimes called shopping. Sa iba namang mga, for example, no, sa ibang mga departamento ng law enforcement sa Pilipinas, just like the recent happening, no? Or I think it is always been happening for a long time, itong ating Bureau of Customs, na pag may nako-confiscate, nawawala yung kanilang mga nako-confiscate. See, for example, mga high-end na mga cars, no? Mga gamit, cellphones, ang dami-dami nako-confiscate, tapos nilalagay lang sa stock room. Then, kakalimutan lang hanggang sa mawala. It's like what happened, yung kaso, yung recent case against a few people from customs, wherein ilang sako ng bigas, million sakong bigas ang na-confiscate na tapos nawala. And it was investigated and found out that it was being corrupted. No, talagang sila lang ang nagdi-dispense. So, tawag dyan shopping. No? Nagpapatrol, for example, ang pulis natin nagpapatrol sa isang grocery tapos nangunguha ng gamit, no? That's very extreme already. In this example, we have police arestado dahil sa umano'y pangingikil sa hinuling drug suspect. These are common things that are happening in the country, which really tarnish the reputation of our police. Then we have police perjury. This is usually means to effect an act of corruption, leaving out certain pertinent pieces of information in order to fix a criminal prosecution. Dropsy evidence is typical, where the officer testifies untruthfully that he or she saw the offender drop some narcotics or contrabands. Lies the Miranda warnings has been given when they haven't. These are also typical. Lying in a court is called testi-lying, and police can do it coolly because they are trained witnesses. Other actors in the system, supervisors and even judges, are often aware of the perjury. They pretend to believe police officers who they know are lying. Everybody's happy with the system because the cop gets credit for good bust, the supervisor's arrest statistics looks good, the prosecutors racks up another win, the judge gets to give his little lecture without endangering his re-election prospects. The defense lawyers gets his fee and dirty money, and the public is thrilled that another criminal is off the street, according to Jewish 1996. Most perjury is committed by decent cops who honestly believe a guilty defendant will go free unless they lie about something. This is very common. Nanguhuli, tapos nagda-drop ng evidence, yung tinatawag nating planting of evidence sa mga nanguhuli nilang mga suspect. And then, common din yung hindi pagsasabi ng Miranda warning sa isang arrested suspect. These are police perjury. Ang problema na dito, minsan yung hukom tsaka yung prosecution ay kahit alam nila na nagsisinungaling yung witness na police, they would tend to accept it because win-win solution para mahuli na, mabigyan ng sentence, a criminal will be off the street, tapos they will look good. The prosecution, the judges will look good for it, and everybody go happy, and everybody go home happy rather. In this case, iba naman tong perjury na to. Ito yung hindi pagbibigay ng dating Chief PNP Alan Porisiman ng kanyang ang salin niya, hindi niya dineclare yung kanyang assets. That is perjury. Kasi dinodoktor niya yung kanyang salin. Napakalaki pala talaga ng kanyang nagiging pera during his time becoming when he was a PNP chief. I don't know what happens to the case right now, but these are examples of police perjury. Next is we have police brutality. Brutality has been defined as excessive force, name-calling, sarcasm, ridicule, and disrespect according to the President's Commission 1967. Other commissions simply use a vague definition as any violation of due process, and Kanya and Maki 1977 widely regarded definition is excessive violence to an extreme degree, which does not support a legitimate police function. When a citizen charges police brutality, they may be referring to a number of things, including the following. We have profane or abusive language, command to move or go home, field stops and searches, threats of implied violence, prodding with a nightstick or approaching with a pistol, the actual use of physical force. Only the last one of this, the actual use of physical force or unreasonable and unnecessary actual use of physical force, can be considered police brutality. This is commonly expressed as more than excessive force. Police perjury and police brutality go hand in hand, as officers who commit brutality will most likely to lie on the stand to prevent the possibility of a lawsuit or departmental charges. So in this case, ito yung kaso ni Kian de los Santos, yung napatay na minor during a drug bust daw, accordingly, but it was found out that he was brutally murdered by this policeman. So itong police brutality daw ay hand in hand with police perjury, kasi nga pagdating sa korte, these police officers would never acknowledge that they have done so. So this is very common. Every now and then we have heard news about this one in the media, especially in the social media, and these are disheartening news for us criminologists, because we look at police officers as heroes. We look at them we look at the police profession as a very attractive and a very shall we say ethical profession, a profession which is we can be proud of in the future. But because of this shall I say instances or cases, nawawala yung ating enthusiasm about law enforcement. Ano ba yung mga reason bakit ang officer na they might engage in this kind of conduct? As marami tayong mga rason na yan. Number one, a small percentage may have been attracted to police work for the opportunity to enjoy physically abusing and hurting somebody. May mga ganon, no? Papasok sa PNP, papasok sa police service kasi gustong mangmisikal, no? Sa ibang tao, hurting people, hurting somebody, physically abusing someone. A small percentage of that. And then an officer may come to believe it's a jungle out there. No, parang kumbaga Pag magpulis ka, kailangan you have to be ready because paglabas mo, when you go to public, nandyan lahat ng klaseng demonyo. So, kailangan palagi kang on the defense mode. Palagi kang on the attack mode. No? An officer may be provoked and pushed beyond their endurance. Ito yung pinaka-common din. Na hindi naman sana gagawin ng pulis yun, kaso lang napoprovoke siya. Napoprovoke siya sa paggawa nun. Instead of doing their job peacefully, mismo may mga pulis, may mga tao din naman talaga, may mga civilian din naman talaga na nagpo-provoke, na gumawa ng masama yung ating pulis. The most common reason is occupational socialization and peer support. One common belief is that it's necessary to come down hard on those who resist arrest because they may kill the next police officer who tries to arrest them. So you have to teach them a lesson. Another practice is the screen test. Police jargon for applying the brakes of police vehicles so that the handcuffed prisoner in back will be thrown against the metal protective screen. Ito yung mga common na ginagawa ng mga police just to inflict harm, to inflict bodily harm to civilians. Tsaka siyempre, yung nangyaring example dito, di ba, yung police natin na binaril, na walang kaawa-awa yung isang dating sundalo. At makikita mo talaga na there is a motive to really hurt the person. Pwede mo naman gawing, ang dami niya pwedeng gagamitin dito. What about the defense tactics that natutunan niya during college? So napakarami pa, no? Napakarami pa mga example ng police brutality na pwede natin pag-usapan, but alam ko na meron kayong na-research na nito. And again, these are common to happen. Napakaraming reason, napakaraming justification, but at the end, still, it is considered unethical and it is considered a criminal act against the police officer that commits them. Police profanity. There are many reasons why a police officer would obscene and profane language, would use obscene and profane language. Effective use of verbal communication is one of the skills expected in police work. Concepts such as commanding voice and commanding presence are routinely taught at police academies. The Federal Communication Commission specifically condemns certain words on radio and television that are patently offensive, but there's no such mechanism for determining what's offensive with interpersonal communication. So ano ba yung typologies dito na nag-i-exist? Ito yung common, no? Yung paggamit ng mga words na merong religious connotation, just like hell or goddamn, goddammit, ganun. Yung mga words naman indicating excretory function, shit, yung piss off, and then words connected with sexual function, fuck and prick. So these are common typologies. And yun nga lang, ang problema nga lang. Kasi yung konsepto kasi ng commanding voice at commanding presence, kasali yan sa training natin. That you have to, di naman ka pwedeng police ka, tapos yung voice mo, parang pang chicks, no? Pang, di ba? Kailangan talaga may commanding voice. Kaya nga may RTC tayo eh. Oh, kaya nga dapat maglakad talagang tough tingnan. Ang problema nga lang, minsan mislead into police profanity. Especially if you will be using such words. Generally, words with religious connotations are considered the less offensive, and words connected with sexual functions are considered as the most offensive. It's commonly the case, however, the use of such language by police officers is purposive and not a loss of control or catharsis or purging. Minsan, ginagamit ng police natin to para makapag-instill ka agad ng command at makapagbigay ka agad or makapag-result ka agad into submission, no? Hindi yung nawala yung kanilang control. Kaya nga lang, yun nga lang talaga, nakikita ng mga citizens, ng mga common tao, common people, na these are offensive words or connotation that they have used. Ito yung mga other purpose, other reason to gain the attention of citizens who may be less than cooperative. Meron naman talagang citizens na less cooperative. Kaya minsan gagamitan natin ng gulpi ni gulat ang tawag doon. Gagamitan ng gulpi ni gulat to discredit somebody or something like an alibi defense, to establish a dominant submissive relationship, to identify with an in-group the offender of police subculture, and to label or degrade an out-group. Yung mga hindi kasali sa grupo, nililabel natin. Of this, the last is the most concerned, since it may reflect transition of prejudice to discrimination, especially if racial slurs or insults or epithets labeling are involved. On the other hand, profanity for innocuous or harmless purposes may very well be something that is unrealistic to expect will go away in policing or many other contexts. So again, we do this, police officers do this because commonly talaga ito to establish a dominant submissive relationship or to gain attention of citizens who may be less than cooperative. Ang pinaka-worst talaga yung gagamitan muna ng racial slurs or insult or yung mga epithets, yung mga labeling. Just like in the USA, yung the black against the white. Next is sex on duty or duty related. Ito, common din to. Feeling kasi pag pulis na, matini idol na. Marami ng chicks na nagkakagusto. Yan ang common na iniisip. Especially pag patrolman pa lang. No? Akala mo kung sino kang gigolo. Akala mo kung sino kang idol. Kaya isip-isip mo lahat ng babae na-attract sa'yo. No? Ito, common. Contacts with promiscuous females and minimal supervisions are part of the job. Sooner or later, every police officer will be propositioned. There are numbers of women who are attracted to the uniform or the aura of the occupation. Every police officer will be able to tell you stories about police groupies. Now, these are women who makes the rounds by waving at officers, getting them to stop or pull over, and then set up meetings to have sex with them, or sometimes right then and there. A woman such as this typically has sex with the whole departments and 100 of police officers. Meron pang mga other situations aside from may mga babae talaga na na-attract sa uniform, especially sa mga police natin, at sila na mismo ang nagbibigay motive, sila na mismo ang nagproposition, sila na mismo ang nag-offer sa kanilang sarili. But nevertheless, kahit saang profession naman, kahit anong profession naman, no? Nandun pa rin dapat yung control. Nandun pa rin yung dapat yung discretion ng isang police officer. Kasali yan sa ating Article of Faith, di ba? Ito yung common other situations, traffic stops. To get a closer look at the female or information about her. Nakihingi, di ba may na-post sa social media sa Facebook yung checkpoint na nag-i-interview yung police daw doon sa isang babae na commuter, tapos at the end of the story, at the end of the conversation, nangihingi ng number. So yung mga ganun na hindi naman dapat kasali sa trabaho yon, di ba? Kaso nga lang, may iba din naman kasing babae na talagang sila pa mismo nag-o-offer ng number, no? Nila. Kaya hinay-hinay mga pulis natin, mga kabrad natin dyan. Hinay-hinay naman kayo. Everything has a place and a place for everything. Example naman dito, fox hunting. Stopping college girls to get the I'll do anything routine. And these are common happenings in the US. In the Philippines naman, meron din naman tayong brand of situations like this one. Voyeurism, window peeping or interrupting lovers lane couples. Victims recontact, ito common to. Consoling victims who have psychological needs. Opposite sex, strip searches, touching or sex with jail inmates. Ito, nangyayari talaga to in Cebu. Nakakaya talaga to, no? And sexual shakedowns, letting prostitutes go off if they perform sex act. And these are common kasi nga, ang ating mga pulis, palaging kausap niyan is either criminal, offender, or mga klaseng babae, prostitutes and all. And human nature, lalaki, minsan natutukso yan, or if not most of the time, kaya nakakaroon talaga ng ganitong mga pangyayari, which is definitely a violation of ethical standards. Now look at the example. Ito, cop record sex in body cam. Naka-uniform pa yung gago. Ito namang couple na to, they were caught having sex on duty. Itong lalaki, I think, has his family already. Ito talaga, they are found guilty and they are kicked out of the job. Talagang tinanggal sila. Ito, this happens, no? Sa Kabugaw, Ilocos Sur to nangyari. 2 pulis isinasangkot sa pagmomolestya at pagpatay sa isang 15 anyos na babae. I think you have heard this news already. For those who have not, you can Google it. Ito parang ang nangyari dito is that nag-violate yata sa curfew tong batang babaeng to, tapos nahuli ng pulis, dinala, tapos na-rape. Ngayon, yung akmang magpa-file na ng case yung babae, yung bata ay rather binaril, pinatay. At it was found out na yung 2 suspect ay sangkot din doon sa pag-murder sa kanya. You see? Karumal-dumal na krimen. Pangsoko talaga to na miniseries, no? Talagang, if you try to think of it, talagang mawawala ang gana mo sa araw. On occasion, one hears about rogue officers who coerce women into having sex on duty. Meron naman tinatawag na second rapes of crime victims. Na-rape pa ng pulis. And school liaison officers involved in juvenile females. But such instances are rare because of the penalties involved. When police sex cases come to the public attention, the department reaction is usually to re-emphasize the code of ethics. Kaya nga lang, the damage is already there at nadadamay yung iba nating mga magagaling at mabubuting police officer. Now look at this example, itong COP na to. Itong si Ildefonso Binanlon Miranda Jr. na nahuli talaga, no? Nakikipag-sex doon sa isa sa kanyang mga detainee na drug suspect. May picture pa, oh. Talagang hinuli siya on the spot. Hindi ba nakakaya? I know what happened to this person. Sana natanggal sa trabaho to, no? Or else, baka na-reassign lang. Tapos, na-water yung case kasi may mga ginagawang under the table na mga pag-uusap. But then again, look at this example. Ito yung 2 pulis na ng rape, no? These things definitely besmirch the reputation of our police. And it gives us frustration also as criminologists. Sleeping on duty. On the night shift, the police car is sometimes referred to as the traveling bedroom. Yan, ginagawang traveling bedroom yung kanilang mga police cars. In police argot, a hole or a co-op is where sleeping takes place. Typically, the back room or someplace the officer has a key to and can engage in safe coping, tulog. Police officers who attend college during the day or moonlight at other jobs in order to make a decent living are often involved in this kind of conduct. Numerous court appearances during the day can also be a factor. Ito common sa Pilipinas, yung mga court hearing ng mga police natin as witnesses and as part of the prosecution team. Tapos panggabi pa yung trabaho, talagang it takes toll of them to them. Along with toll of shift work. Sleeping on duty, of course, is just an extreme example of gold breaking, ang term yan. Ang ibig sabihin yung gold breaking na yan, slacking or yung malingering. The avoidance of work or performing only the amount minimally necessary to satisfy superiors. Gold breaking can take many forms, from ignoring or passing on calls for services to someone else, overlooking suspicious behavior, or engaging in personal business while on duty. So, common yan. No? Especially so, pag ang pulis natin ay napakaraming syota, napakaraming pamilya na pinapakain, pinapaaral. Diba? Kumbaga sa Bisaya pa, daghag kanding ng itugway. Yan. Kapoy kayo ang lawas sa matulog. On duty. Which happens. Tapos, lately lang, diba? Nagra-rounds yung ating police director sa Manila. Dami na huli on the spot. Drinking and abusing drugs on or off duty. There are endless opportunities to drink and take drugs while on duty. For example, victims interview, shakedowns, contraband disposal. Meron nga nangyari dito sa Davao City, somewhere in Davao City, that they have conducted warrant of arrest and search and seizure rather. Tapos according sa mga witnesses, pagpasok ng bahay, kumain pa yung mga pulis natin, tsaka uminom. Inuha pa yung mga beer doon sa ref, tapos ininom daw. I don't know if that was proven, but yun yung mga yun yung mga sinasabi ng mga suspect doon. Kasi pati yung, sinasabi ng mga witnesses, pati yung isa sa mga witness kasi yung anak, minor. Accordingly, pagdating doon ng mga pulis, nagdemand ng pagkain, tapos yung mga, kung ano yung nakikita sa refrigerator, kinakain, tapos yung mga wine, tsaka beer. Yung ganun ba? Akala mo hindi nangyayari, but these things are actually happening. And the reason for it are many. For example, to get high, addiction, stress, burnout, or alienation from the job. However, even in cases of recreational usage, which doesn't exist since officers are never off duty or have any of their own time, because you are, pag pulis ka, 24 hours ka. Kahit nasa bahay ka lang, di ba? You are on call. The potential is there for corruption. The officer must obtain the drugs from some intermediary, involve other in transactions, and open the door to blackmail, shakedowns, rip-off, or cheating, and cover-ups. It sets a bad example for public relation. It will affect judgment and lead to the greater likelihood of deadly force on or traffic accidents. Alcohol and drugs use tend to become a systemic problem. Others becomes involved, either supporting or condemning the user. Alcohol and drugs tend to be mixed by police officers because there's more subcultural support for alcoholism. Thus, the abuser covers up the drug use with alcoholism. More intriguing is when the police become sellers or drug dealers. Ito yung pinaka-worst talaga. So, from using drugs, they become sellers of drugs, then they become dealers of drugs, and eventually they will become protectors of drug. No? One occasionally hears stories of officers selling drugs at rock concerts. The motivation here appears to be monetary gain and greed, although there have been some attempts to claim stress or other undercover assignment as a defense. Excuse me. In cases where such officers have been disciplined, plea bargained, or arbitrated, the court have not upheld the job stress-drug connection. Although there is some precedence in ruling that the job assignment may be a factor in alcoholism. Look at this example here. No? Officers sold drugs on duty while in uniform. Grabe naman yun. Naka-uniform pa, no? Naka-uniform pa, tapos nagbebenta ng droga. Lately, dito sa Davao City, nangyari, what happens is that forest ranger assigned in Mati City was caught dealing drugs during a bypass operation, and then according sa mga pulis ay misukol, no? Misukol sa sulod sa iyang sakyanan during the actual bypass. In fact, binangga pa niya yung isang motor ng pulis natin, and because of that he was shot to kill. He was dealt by the police and killed on the spot, no? So tingnan mo nga naman, forest ranger and DENR with all the protections of the law, tapos siya pa mismo ang nagdi-deal ng droga. And these are disheartening. An example in here sa drug war naman ni President Roddy Duterte, ito 5 senior PNP officers linked by President Duterte to illegal drugs. See? Napakapangit na example, especially sa inyo na future of our law enforcement. I hope this would not happen to one of you in the future. And of course, we have the misuse of confidential information. This normally involves the jeopardization of ongoing investigation by leaking information to friends, relatives, the public, the press, or in some cases, directly to the criminal suspects or members of their gang. The officer may be unaware that they are even engaging in this kind of conduct, which may involve pillow talk in some instances. Failed raids, for example, are often due to leak in the department. In other cases, department resources such as computer systems may be used to produce criminal history reports for friends of the department, such as private detectives, consulting firms, or area employees. Passwords can also slip out, granting access to computer network information. And in rare cases, police resources are put to use in blackmailing political figures. In general, however, cracking down on secrecy violations has produced more problems than it has solved. Commonly sa Pilipinas, ito laging krinikritik ng mga tao, common people, yung mga pagpapakita ng mga pictures ng mga wanted person, pictures ng mga, di ba yung mga press briefing na gano'n na ginagawa na sinasabi ng police na we have lead. For example, na particular case, sinasabi ng police, huwag mag-alala kasi meron tayong lead. Alam na namin kung saan yung suspect and we are conducting verification on it. Ayun na. Para mo nalang sinabi na, hoy, gago. Alam na namin kung saan ka nagtatago. Better yet, umalis ka na dyan, maghanap pa ng ibang pagtaguan mo. Parang gano'n, yung mga, these things happens, no? Sinasabi ng mga tao na these are misuse of confidential information. Sana, hulihin mo na yung suspect bago i-announce sa public na they have already apprehended the suspect. Di ba? Mga gano'n na mga usapan. Minsan naman itong mga pulis natin, especially pag bago pa lang, mga patrolman, sorry to say this one, but sometimes they would share information, especially in connection with their duty as a police officer, to their loved ones. Mga girlfriend, yan, pillow talk. Diba, sinasabi, punta kami bukas mahal sa kasi meron kami i-ride doon, parang pakitang gilas kumbaga. Hindi mo alam yung kausap mo, sinabi din sa kaibigan, na may kaibigan ganito, and before you know it, the operation is already botched. No? Wala na. Kaya nga may mga failed mga raids, mga gano'n. Failed attempt of arrest. And these are example. This is the last example of police defiance, which is common. So, if you have questions regarding the topic that we have this week, you can freely communicate to me through social media platforms that we have, the Facebook page that we have the Google Classroom, and you can also PM me if you want privacy.